What's up, everybody? Now that the weather's starting to warm up, we're going to be going over 5 tips for beginning paddleboarders. Hey folks, this is Tucker Brown. Welcome to The Average Adventurer. By the previous shot, you saw that I am by the water. I'm actually by the Shenandoah River right now. And I did a little paddleboarding adventure today. Now, I am just average and accidents do happen, which is why I fell in today. I was only on my knees. The current was rough and I flipped in, okay? I had my PFD on, but the water, it's 56 degrees outside right now. It was 30 something degrees last night, so it was freezing. Okay, so getting right into the content. Tip number 1, don't go alone if you can help it. Now, the guy I was with is the guy I mentioned in the first video. He is a former LL Bean instructor in paddleboarding and rafting and kayaking, does all that stuff. So I had him near me. I didn't need him per se. I was floating back down river, but I was able to get on my board and everything, but it was freezing, all right? And when you're in water that cold, it literally takes the breath out of your lungs. And if you're by yourself, something goes terribly wrong, who knows? I finally dried off. Like I said, I got the heater cranked up in my car. So we had a good laugh about it, and everything's all good. But the first tip is don't go alone if you can help it, okay? If you can't go with somebody into it, not everybody paddleboards, not everybody's in the kayaking or anything adventure-like. You wanna make sure you let somebody know. I told my wife where I was gonna be. You want to make sure you're in a location that's safer. If there's people around, that's awesome. But if you can help it, go with somebody. All right. If you can't do that, make sure you have your PFD. Make sure you let everybody know where you're at, what your plans are. That way, if something does go south, then they know kind of where you were. And if, like I said, if nothing goes right, then they'll be able to help you out a little bit sooner. So tip number 1, don't go alone if you can help it. And if you can't, make sure you take the proper precautions of letting people know and wearing the proper life-saving devices. Tip number 2, pay attention to the weather. Now, today is a prime example of paying attention to the weather. It's cold, it's windy, the water is absolutely freezing, but being quarantined and locked inside, we were pretty amped up to get outside and do something. So we decided to go paddleboarding. But I know from experience, I want to say my first couple times out, it was windy. I will say being in the wind on a paddleboard is not the easiest thing if you're advanced, if you've been doing it for a while. Now, I've been doing it long enough where I can paddle into the wind. But if you're a beginner paddling in the wind, you're nothing more than a sail. Now, if it's storming, you got to pay attention to those things too. Because we're going back to tip number 1, if you're with somebody, things not going right, at least you have somebody there with you. But if you don't have anybody with you, then who knows what could happen. You don't want the worst case scenario to happen to you. So paying attention to the weather, paddleboarding, wind is a big factor. Understanding if it rained the night before, if you're in a river, some places where I go paddleboarding, that it takes 24 hours for the water to rise in a certain location. So even though it might be 85 degrees and sunny, no wind, you might get water from a different location rushing in. And with rushing water and like a river situation, for example, that can bring things up the river, which could be dangerous in its own right. So the next tip that I have for you is paying attention to the weather. Always do your research. Check the wind, check the sun. When is it supposed to rain? Are there storms? Don't get caught out in a rainstorm. That's not easy to paddle in. Tip number 3, wearing the proper clothing. The type of clothing that you want to wear when you go paddleboarding, typically you're going to wear some swim trunks, some board shorts, something that wicks moisture away from your body. So when you do go in, everybody's going to go in, it's inevitable. You have something that's going to dry off pretty quickly. Going in blue jeans or cotton even. Cotton's going to hold that moisture in. Now, little thing about myself, I remember the first time I went paddleboarding, I went with a buddy and our goal was to go fishing. And when I went, for some reason, I wanted to be Mr. Fisherman. So I was rocking some Columbia pants, Columbia shirt, I looked the part of a fisherman. Not knowing how to paddleboard yet, it was miserable. My pants were soaking wet. The shirt I had wasn't right for it. So making sure that you wear something appropriate for it. You're going in basketball shorts, that's fine. Typically those are going to dry out quicker. Wearing something that repels water, but making sure that the clothing you wear, and wear clothing appropriate for the temperature. okay? There's nothing wrong with paddleboarding in the cold. There's nothing wrong with that. But make sure you bring the proper clothing that's gonna keep you warm when and if you get wet. And also making sure you bring spare clothing with you. Today, I didn't do that. So luckily I had some stuff on that got me dry pretty quick, but having a spare change of clothes isn't a bad idea. Just in case you do go in and get wet, you don't want to be sitting there freezing, waiting for your car to heat up. So bring proper clothing. Tip number 4 will be the location. But before we get into it, if you made it this far, lucky you, I've got a bonus tip at the end. So it's really 6 tips. All right, so tip number 4 is gonna be understanding the location where you're going. Now, that kind of contradicts the thought of taking an adventure and exploring new places. But when I mean location, I mean, are we going to the beach? Are you going to a river? Are you going to a lake? Paddleboarding in a lake you've been to already might be an easy way to start. Ocean's gonna be different. There's gonna be a lot of wind, there's surf, there's other things going on. Rivers have currents you gotta worry about. So understanding the type of location you're gonna be at. And heading back to the first tip, if you're going to a location, make sure you share it with somebody. Make sure people know where you're at, all right? People have to know where you're at, just in case if you don't come back, then they know where to look for you, okay? So tip number 4, understanding your location. Tip number 5, being confident. Now, if you're not confident, then odds are you're gonna fail sooner than you would have originally. Beginning paddleboarding is tough. It's a weird feeling of being unsteady. Like you're on, like if you've ever been on a boat and you're standing on a smaller boat and you start rocking side to side, there's that. When you paddle and you change direction and your momentum takes you, it's a weird feeling. So, but you will get used to it. I promise you, you'll get used to it. Everybody does. Some people will get used to it quicker than others, but the confidence you have is super important, okay? Going out there and thinking you're afraid to fall, you're gonna fall, okay? You're not gonna be focusing on the fun of what's around you, you know, getting a decent workout in, seeing the landscape, maybe some fish underneath you. If you're not confident, you're gonna have a less enjoyable time. One of the biggest tips is, when you go your first time, jump in, get on the board, fall in. Learn how to get back on the board. That way you get your falling out of the way. Making sure the water's a little warmer. I still find myself when the water's 40 degrees and I'm out there in a jacket and some basketball shorts, I find myself thinking, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. And today I fell, okay? It's gonna happen, it's okay. People fall, if people see you fall, and if they make fun of you, they got no right to make fun of you, because guarantee the odds are they've fallen too. So just ignore it. Just if you fall, you fall, okay? But be confident, okay? And understand you're not going to succeed the very first time. You might, which is awesome. I hope you do. But if you don't succeed, it's okay. Just practice getting on the board. Being on your knees for the full first day, I did that. It's okay. Getting used to the water, okay? But being confident, you got to be confident. Bonus tip, woo, you made it, is proper gear. Now, I think this one's interesting because I'm literally, I don't know if I could show you, but I'm literally filming you on some kind of like, it's not even a selfie stick, it's like a gimmick Christmas gift that goes around your neck. I thought it'd be fun. It actually works really well. I do got some new camera gear and stuff coming in the mail this Sunday, should be here. So I'm not going in the water with my cell phone. Hence what happened today. I fell, and my luck, my phone would be in my pocket. I'm an idiot. But sometimes I want to take you guys out on the water. Well, every time actually. But I want to have the proper camera gear to do that. So filming, if you're ever going to film and take pictures, make sure that if you do bring your phone out, you can do it. I've taken pictures on the water before. Making sure you have dry bags, dry boxes that you can put your keys and everything in. Making sure you have stuff like that. Getting waterproof cameras and stuff. I'll have that stuff in this Sunday, so I'm excited I get to start taking you guys out on the board and have all the accessories on me so you can actually see me when I do fall in and scream for my buddy to save me, and he doesn't save me. It's all right. I didn't need him, actually. But getting more into the beginner side of things is like the paddleboard. Making sure you do your research on the proper paddleboard. Everything that I was told and I researched on my own was making sure the length of the paddleboard and the width of the paddleboard are going to be enough to keep you stable. Now, if you're short and skinny, it's going to be a lot easier to stay on the board. If you're tall and big, then obviously it's going to be a little harder to stay centered on the board. But one thing to look for, a paddle board, mine is 10.5 feet by 30 inches, and it's 6 feet thick, okay? Or 6 inches thick, not 6 feet, that'd be ridiculous. So for mine is 10.5 feet long, 30 inches wide, and it's 6 inches up. Okay, so it keeps me out of the water. Now, that's plenty stable for me. Now, you can get 11-foot boards, 32 inches wide. You can even buy paddle boards where you can take your whole freaking family out and put 4 people on there. You can buy square paddle boards. You can buy anything, okay? But understanding the proper equipment. PFDs. I use a Class 3 PFD. It works perfect for me. So understanding the types of life jackets that are out there is all very, very important. Understanding, you know, getting dry bags for your stuff. If you want to take snacks, if you want to take anything out on the water with you, keeping it dry. Where do you find dry bags at? You know, you can find a list of all that stuff. You know, just Google it, Amazon. They have all that kind of stuff, and it's all relatively cheap. You don't have to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, you know. And on the topic of money, know what you want to spend on your paddleboard if you're first going to buy one. I didn't spend that much on mine. You know, I got it for a gift, but the people who bought it didn't spend it. Okay, I mean, it was like a $300 paddleboard, if that. You know, don't go out and buy a $1,800 red paddleboard if you're just into it. Now, if you can afford it, that's great, but it's not necessary. Those are great paddleboards, fantastic. Look at the reviews. But mine's an Aqua Planet. It's a big British brand, but it's perfect for me right now. And I'd love to venture out and try different types of paddle boards and stuff like that. But right now, that one's perfect for me. It's all I need. That's all I'm going to do to have fun and go on an adventure. And I'm planning on putting some D-rings on it to add some more bungee for storage on these adventures and overnight trips that I want to do. But getting to know the equipment. Don't make any purchases until you've done your research. And on the topic of equipment, if the camera's a little unstable, that's my bad, because this thing isn't easy to control. I thought it'd be easier than just like holding it with my hand. But hopefully I'll have a cool selfie stick coming, so hopefully it'll be a little more stable, and the camera is going to have, you know, optimization for movement and everything, so it shouldn't be as shaky. And if it's shaky, I'm sorry. But in the video here, I want to thank everybody for watching. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, comment. If there's something that I missed that you want to add to it, go ahead and comment down in the comment section. The more you share, the more everybody's going to learn from this. Okay, now I'm planning on going out in a few days, but stay tuned for the next video. Also, if you don't follow me yet, follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be throwing up a bunch of pictures of adventures that I've taken. You can see them there. It's the_average_ADV. Okay, so go ahead and follow that, and you get a first hand look at some videos that are going to come out, some teasers of what's going to be put out, and you see some different pictures than you'll see on here. But thank you for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.